Snazzy Tapir production is made possible by our patrons. If you'd like to join them, head over to patreon.com/snazzytapir to get member shoutouts, ad-free early access to new episodes, access to the members-only Discord, and our exclusive monthly newsletter. Thank you to Snazzy supporters Matt, Mike Barnes, and Ollie of the Beholder for keeping the show on the road. Now, on with the podcast. Welcome back to A Game of One's Own. I'm your host, Maddie Searle. My pronouns are they, them, and today my wonderful guest Wren and I are concluding our playthrough of Tangled Blessings by Cassi Mothwin. As we begin this episode, Zoanna and Emmeline are starting their final year at Brackroot Academy. We're on to year 4, which is the Year of Swords. And Zoanna's first prompt is the Knight of Swords. You don't know how you got there, but one day you woke up inside a coffin. It didn't take you long to break out of the wooden box thanks to your magic, but you were still sealed inside a tomb surrounded by darkness. What magic did you use to escape the tomb? Who did the tomb belong to? Who was behind this? And do you think they meant for you to stay there?
Death surrounds us at every turn.
Yeah. And your major arcana card is the Devil.
The devil. God.
And then my first prompt is the Page of Swords. You remember sitting under a tree enjoying a rare, nice day of weather. You had a view of the entire valley below the mountains from that spot. You were studying for one of your classes when something from the valley flickered in your vision. When you finally turned to look, you saw a group of mages holding swords to the sky as a dark portal opened above them. Suddenly, a bright light flashed across the land, forcing you to close your eyes. When you looked again, the mages in the portal were gone, but the book you were reading had a new page. What did the page say? Did you see a vision of the past, a glimpse into the future, or a warning? And then my major arcana card is the Sun, 19.
Yours is so nice. I'm in a tomb. I think when Zoanna wakes up in that coffin, she doesn't panic so much. Like, she realizes that she's trapped, but there's just a moment where she takes in this deprivation of her sight, these muffled sounds, the fact that she can't really move her arms that much. As she takes a few comforting breaths, they begin to warm, and this innate ability, the first one that she found that she had, begins to spread out from her breath, from her hands, and the wood begins to creak and crackle, and a great flame doesn't erupt from her, but the wood begins to blacken and char as if burning itself from the inside out until it just begins to crumble all around her into just this black char and ash. I think the tomb belongs to not the first headmaster, but the second one. It's pretty stately in the graveyard of the grounds. I don't think she recognizes it at first until she's feeling around in the darkness and her hands land on an epitaph. I think this isn't so much as they meant her to stay here as they meant for her to find something here or to be pointed in this direction. And I think she remembers that there was some controversy about this headmaster that has been like thoroughly squashed from a lot of records. And so people generally remember him a certain way, but there's always just like bits of information that seem cut off, or it's just a sentence cut short in a record. And I think the person who put her in here means for her to investigate deeper into this person. What she'll find in the moment, I don't think she's sure of. But I think this is a direction. And I think the person behind this is possibly the same person who she saw in a carriage on a field trip.
Nice. I think that from Emmeline's perspective, this is more fodder for the ever-expanding red string sketches pinned up to the dorm wall, etc., etc. I think there are rumours that there was some vandalism in the second headmaster's tomb, but I don't know if anyone knows who was actually involved in it. I think both Zoanna and Emmeline's names are kind of brought up as potential suspects, but I don't think anyone actually saw Zoanna coming out of the tomb.
She didn't blast the doors off.
And then for Emmeline's vision, when she's sitting under a tree, looking at the view, seeing a bright light and a group of mages holding swords to the sky and opening a portal, she recognizes one of the mages as being the second headmaster. And I think the other mages are wearing robes with symbology that would later come to be associated with this anti-school faction that Professor Sagrada was
We should name them.
supposedly involved in. Yes, we should rename them.
Name.
The Whetted Blades.
Sure, yeah.
Just like, let's come up with something fantasy sounding. She notices this and instantly thinks this doesn't make sense. The second headmaster was one of the pillars of the early years of this school, and this group is now associated with wanting to destroy the school. How can this make sense? And this leads her down a whole new line of questioning to try and figure out what's been going on. And how does Zoanna react?
When you relay that to Zoanna, I think that she starts obsessing a little bit over anything she can find about the second headmaster. And within the school, I think they've done a lot of work to hide any association that he had with that. And I think it makes her furious. Because it feels so much like they're on the edge of something that could answer why it's so important that this doesn't get out, why Professor Sagrada had to die. Is Professor Sagrada dead? She's not sure anymore. Who killed Professor Ash and why? Who tried to kill her? Like all of these questions. And it feels like it's leading back to this group and whatever they have going on with the heads of the school. It's so close and she's so frustrated. And at this point, it feels like the only way that they're going to figure this out is to either seek information outside of the school or get it directly from the top.
Excellent. Okay, and now our last prompts before we go into the final exam. The prompt for Zoanna is the Six of Swords. A ghost came to you, death again. A ghost came to you while you were alone in your room. The phantom told you of a newly revealed path to hell and said that someone was waiting for you at the end of it. The ghost beseeched that you follow them, warning that the path would require you to give up your ability to forgive, but that you'd also find answers to your questions. Where did they lead you? Did you follow the path? If so, who waited for you at the end? What did they reveal?
Money.
For your major arcana, it is Strength, number 8. For Emmeline, it is the Two of Swords. You stumbled on clues that lead you to the secret meeting location of an on-campus society. Some of the clues suggested the society was behind the murder last year. You managed to trick a member into staying in their room, and you wore their image as a glamour disguise. What did you learn at the meeting? Who all was there? Who did you glamour yourself as? What taste did their face leave in your mouth? And then my major arcana card is 20, Judgment. So does Zoanna end up following the ghost to hell and meeting someone at the end of the path?
Well, I've been summoning demons. Oh my goodness. That's so funny. This ghost is in the shape of a young man. It looks like perhaps a former student, but they don't look like they're from this time. They look much older. And Zoanna, with the prospect of having to go to hell, is a little wary, but she reckons with herself that in order to find the answer that they want, they might need to do a risky thing, and so summons up her courage and manages to follow the phantom as they lead her down these forgotten hallways. And as the rock begins to change from worked stone into something much older, she sees this portal and it feels so familiar. It draws her back to her first year, this space that she can see beyond this pale red light, this dark, craggy rock, water that she can't see but she can hear and knows is black and fathomless. Once she goes in, she will lose this vital part of herself, but it's already gone as she thinks about it. All she feels is this anger at what's been done, at what they've done to her as she moves into this portal. On the other side, I do think it's Professor Sagrada in hell, and it's the first time that she's seen him properly since that day when they found his body on the ground. She realizes that the thing that she's been seeing has been like a spectered version of him trying to draw her here, but not having the ability to. I think he reveals that they were right about him, that the school wasn't wrong for trying to expel him because he was a part of that group. But she was also right in that it is a bit of propaganda. It's not necessarily an anti school group. The founders, when they originally formed this school around the speaking gem, there was a lot of friction about how the school should form. And I think when it came to the second headmaster's turn, it really came to a head about the way that the school should be run. It broke off from then, but both parties were trying to gain hold of the speaking gem because this was how they were going to draw people towards, and both believed that they were in the right, but there was very much a more brutalistic and rigid society that managed to take hold of the speaking gem to begin with. And their group, the Wetted Blades, had like formed semi in response to that, trying to regain hold of the speaking gem and change the way that the school was run because they didn't think that the way that they were doing things was safe for the students in the long run, that the way that they were teaching things wasn't actually helping, and in some cases leading them more susceptible to negative influences. And in that way, he sort of trapped a part of himself within the school in the event that he was discovered. And that's what she had been seeing all the time, this just trapped part of himself. And yeah, I think it's that these two factions, the second headmaster was in support of, but something happened, something changed, and he ended up staying with the school until he died.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that so much. I kind of want to just lead straight into my prompt as well before I lose the thread. I think that this on-campus society that Emmeline wants to infiltrate is a sort of informal council of the most influential staff members of the school. And they kind of play it off as a sort of salon or society when in fact it's actually instrumental in the running of the school. Emmeline manages to trick one of the lower ranking teachers who's only just managed to gain access into staying behind and marking assignments instead of going to the meeting, and takes on their appearance. And I think it's a relatively young professor, maybe early 30s, but already balding and has a sort of obsequious manner, trying to be deferential to everyone, even the more assertive students. And so when she takes on the appearance of this professor, she feels this kind of sickly sweet taste as he tries to make himself palatable to everyone. At the meeting, she learns that the sapphire ring that she found in the hidden room is a symbol of this secret society of influential staff members. Because she keeps it on her at all times, she can luckily pull it out of her pocket and wear it, or just conjure it as part of the glamour in order to appear as part of the group. And I think she learns that Professor Ash was not killed by the wetted blades, but by the school themselves, because despite the fact that they didn't reveal anything to Emmeline, the fact that they had been seen in such a public way having this disagreement with a student invited more suspicion than they would have liked. And I think perhaps having been confronted, Professor Ash was leaning towards a more moderate view and saying, we're hiding so much from these students. Surely they deserve to know a bit more. But that was also kind of beyond the pale for this more aggressive part of the school ecosystem. And they decided to kill her and make it look like the wetted blades had committed the murder to make people more sympathetic to their own cause. Obviously, Zoanna and Emmeline probably exchange notes after these things. Does Zoanna tell the whole truth about what they saw or leave some details out?
Zoanna tells most of the truth. And I think the parts that she leaves out aren't necessarily intentional, like she's trying to keep a secret from you. It's more, I think Professor Sagrada asked her to do something that she feels is personal and that you don't need to know about it.
Very fair.
I think she tells you what she considers important.
Nice. And I think that Emmeline is pretty forthcoming with the information that she learns because it's not as emotionally charged for her personally, but you do kind of get a sense of guilt that she is partially responsible for the death of Professor Ash by confronting them so openly, even though logically Emmeline knows that she wasn't the one who actively killed Professor Ash. I think there is an element of guilt that she can't quite shake. And so we have come to the final exam. The book says, you and your rival gather in the banquet hall, locking eyes before the exam begins. A temporary platform the length of the room serves as a stage. After watching you two grow in power and stature the last 4 years, every instructor is seated and ready to see how the exam unfolds. Mages from outside the school and current students make up the audience as well. Everything has led to this moment. Will you be bested by your rival, or will you prevail as one of the greatest students the Academy has ever seen? Answer these questions. Do you feel like you've studied enough? Do you trust your rival to play fair? Are you nervous? And do you even want to win? How does Zoanna feel about this final exam?
I don't think she's nervous. She believes that she has done as much as she can. But I think right now this just feels like a task to accomplish so that she can move on to the next thing. Because everything that's happened so far, everything that they've been through in the last 4 years, she expects herself to win because that's just where she's at. But I think even if she doesn't, it's not going to stop her doing what she considers the next step.
Yeah, I think for Emmeline, she's very conflicted because she feels like if she wins, then is that showing her superiority over the school, or is it showing her playing into what the school expects of her and being the model student that is a lie? And if she loses, does that mean she loses access to the opportunity to delve into this conspiracy further because she'll be shut out of the most exclusive doors? But does she even want to be part of this exclusive club? I think she knows that Zoanna expects to win and maybe worries that if Emmeline wins, will their working relationship suffer as a result? So, using your notes, build a deck for each year of study consisting of the minor arcana cards you drew during that year. So, the 4 parts of the exam are part 1, spells and curses, where we use our deck of wands. Part 2 is potions and tonics, where we use our deck of cups. Part 3 is rituals for the pentacles. And part 4 is the final duel against your rival using the deck of swords. And we can only reveal 1 top card from our deck each year. The student with the higher card wins that year's part of the final exam. And so in this game, ace equals 1. The numeric cards, that is their value. The page is worth 11, the knight 12, and the queen and king are worth 13. And there are no tiebreakers. And if someone wins the first 3 parts, you win the exam, but you can still duel your rival anyway if you want to. The card that I have got for part 1 is the 8 of Wands.
I've drawn an ace.
I think unfortunately in this one, aces are ones. So Emmeline has taken round 1, but it's still all to play for. Part 2, deck of cups, potions and tonics. I have drawn a measly 4.
I've got the 10 of cups.
Nice. So Zoanna takes round 2.
In your face, Professor Keen. I deserve all of my abilities.
I've got a 9 for part 3, rituals.
Page of Pentacles.
Ooh. Yeah, that beats me by 2.
Yes.
So we either draw or you have a resounding victory.
It's our final duel.
Oof, I got the page of swords. So 11.
6 of swords.
Ooh, so we've tied. I think that's quite emblematic of our characters at first being suspicious of each other, then kind of coming together. Okay, so the prompt for Utai says, against all odds, you and your rival stare at each other in frustration. The crowd is silent as the headmaster takes the stage, congratulating you both on proving that there is a limit to power. A dinner follows that celebrates the event, and you're both asked to join the academy as instructors. To entice you, you're given access to a secret lounge with a well-guarded fountain. You're told drinking from it halts the aging process and cures all ailments. Where does the magic take you next? How does Zoanna feel about this not quite victory?
I think if it was against anyone except for Emmeline, I think she would have been really annoyed at herself. But I think they both have come so far, not in their relationship, but in the fact of what they know about the school. And so I think she actually takes a little bit of comfort. She's still annoyed. She's still so annoyed. But I think she takes a little bit of comfort in knowing that there is someone who can match her, not just in thinking, but also ability. And maybe they could work together on something.
Yeah, I think Emmeline feels very similarly. I think she's relieved in that she's proven herself a worthy opponent, but hasn't completely destroyed the relationship that's taken years to build. And I think as a show of trust, Emmeline reveals the old "What is Zoanna up to" notebook. And is very sheepish and embarrassed and is like, yeah, I had this, and then throws it into the fire as a kind of symbol of forgetting the past and moving on to the future.
I think, though, you throw it into the fire, it doesn't burn it.
Yeah.
And You see Zoanna put her hand in and take it back out. This might be important.
You have a point. I'll let you hold on to that.
Thank you. For Zoanna, I don't know what Emmeline is thinking of, but I think she is going to accept the opportunity to be on staff, but she still has this scroll of possibility given to her by Professor Sagrada. And I think one of the things that she saw in it was her as headmaster. And I think were you to look further down that possibility, like just if the camera were to pan down, there would just be the bodies of the former staff on the ground around. Emmeline's body is not there, though.
Okay, excellent. I think that is a beautiful place to leave off our adventure for the day. Thank you so much, Wren. This has been absolutely fantastic. Could you please let the listeners know where to find more of you and your work?
Yes, I have been Wren. You can find me at Masquewren on the social medias. I have a little TikTok account where you can see some of my cosplays. But yeah, I'm just floating around the TTRPG space, and this has been great fun. Thank you, Maddy, for inviting me on.
You're very welcome. It's been wonderful to have you here. That's all the time we have for this episode of A Game of One's Own. If you want to try Tangled Blessings for yourself, there's a link in the podcast description. You can also find out more about all the other brilliant games by Cassi Mothwin by following the links in the description. Thanks so much to this week's amazing guest, Wren. You can find links to their social media in the description as well. Thank you for listening to this episode of A Game of One's Own. Our theme music, as always, is by James Barbarossa, with additional music by Kevin MacLeod. If you'd like to support the show, head over to patreon.com/snazzytapier for all the bonus goodies. You can find the show on social media at A Game of One's Own, and find out more about my work at snazzytapier.com or at Maddy is Abstract on social media. See you next time for more weird stories.